Hello,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Lovely to
That's,
meet you, even though it's on Zoom.
well, it's still me and a meeting, so I see your
Yeah.
face, so that's good.
That's great. Um,
We've
so,
never met before, have we? Have we
no,
met? No.
no, we
Okay.
haven't. No. But you are here at the MDV?
I'm at the MDV now, yes. Um,
Yeah.
the last 5 years I was living in Basel in Switzerland,
Yes.
and I was directing the opera studio there at the theater,
Mm.
and I was on leave of absence from the MDV, and now I'm back again after these 5 years at the MDV.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you were originally here and then went to Switzerland.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But Australian?
Australian, yes.
Yeah. So how long have you been out of Australia?
More than half my life, that's for sure.
Really?
I mean, I came to at the beginning when I was, I don't know, 22 or 23. I think I came to Europe to study with in Paris, and my plan back then was to go to the US to do the Aufnahmeprüfungen for masters in lead and in oratorio at Juilliard and at Eastman. But back then, when I arrived in Europe and was in Paris, and living in so far away all my life, well, up to then all my life, I was just so excited to be in Europe and excited to be in a place where all the music I loved and all the music that meant so much to me was born, so to speak.
Yeah.
So then I had a teacher in Paris called Noel Lee, he's American, and I just did a weekend trip to Vienna to visit some people that I knew were living and studying there. And I just sort of got talking to people, and one thing led to another. And then I ended up going to Vienna and studying there and just taking a big risk, actually. When I look back, it was, as young people are, very sort of courageous and very sort of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try this. And I had a lot of help. I had a lot of people that were looking after me, not just my family, but also some really lovely people I met in Vienna at the very beginning that had been really kind to me and took me in. So I was very lucky, that it also worked out for me. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's what I call doing the jump. It's that thing where you just jump into the river or jump into a pool. When you're in, you just have to swim. If you contemplate on the, if you're standing on on the side and you just wander and think and not do it, then you never do it. But when you jump, then there's only one thing you can do, and that's swim. Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, I mean, when I look back, if it is going back to then, I think also the thing was that my love was so strong for music, still is,
Yeah.
of course. But that even when people said, oh, like when I was auditioning for the conservatorium to study lead and oratorium in Vienna, people would say, oh, some people think maybe you're a little bit old and all this or that and all these things, but I just sort of thought, no, I don't care.
You want to do it.
Do it. So
Yeah.
even if I'm too old or I'm not good enough, or
Mm.
I suppose, yeah, I think that in the end it is love, that the love, the passion that is what can get you through all the
Yeah.
difficult times. Even this last year of difficulty, of course, that we've all had.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're working with the students now, so you have, and I mean, now they are at that stage that you say maybe you were young and you did all this, but and I've also met many of the MDV students in this project because I photographed them, and I spoke to them, and I got almost so excited every time because they seem to have this resilience almost, you know, as if sometimes they would say something like they worried about because they had to do auditions, or they, you know, it was the graduating year that had to move on. But many of them seemed to just got on with it and started collaborations and did things, you know. And I sort of, I admire them for that, but I think it came with the fact that they were young and still had that daring energy.
Mm. Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
I think it's for the young generation, it's been real challenging for them, because I mean I'm in a privileged position that, you know, I finished in Basel, and even though the theater went into lockdown and we weren't performing, we still got paid 100% right to the end of the season. I had a break, and then I started at the uni. I had sort of that security too that a lot of people didn't have. But I feel that a lot of the people that didn't have the security really became incredibly creative, because they really had to find. I mean, I think I'm just thinking about my students at the MDV. I have I haven't really. It's interesting. I didn't find any of them were having any sort of crisis about themselves or making music. They were sort of like just getting on with the situation and making the most of the situation. And as we all were hoping that it's going to end sometime soon.
Yeah. But now, how soon? Because I saw there was you wrote on Facebook the first live performance. So these were students performing?
No, this was an Austrian baritone called Erwin Belakovic, who I had a long collaboration with for many years. We met each other when we were both students, actually. Well, he was a student. I'd just finished studying. And we've had a long collaboration together over the years, and we recorded Die Schöne Müllerin for Gramola many years ago. And of course, being in Basel all these last couple of years, I lost a bit of contact to a lot of people, and especially to concert scene generally, and particularly in Austria. And it just sort of came out of the blue. We've always been in contact, of course. And he just said, well, I've got a couple of Schöne Müllerins this year. Do you want to do them? And I said, yes, of course I do. And so that's how it happened, that we ended up going to this Schloss Kleinstetten in the Steiermark, and we did this Schöne Müllerin. And it was, of course, it was lovely to just be on stage again and be in front of an audience and feel that energy, and to make music with someone. I mean, I think like everybody, I've done a lot of projects throughout the last year. I did with my group of singers in Basel. Because we couldn't do a final concert, we made a final film. I can send it to you.
Yes, please. Yeah.
We made a final film, and we did all of that online, just about. And it's a very long film, but it's a very lovely film where each singer has a little portrait about themselves and their time in Basel, and then at the MDV, I have a group of singers where we were doing a Schwerpunkt on music of the 20th century, and we made a recording of it'll be in the end 6 song cycles or 6 composers of and that was made into a film. Which I can also send you to.
Yes, please.
Look at. Yeah. And I made it in the first lockdown with one of my sopranos, an Irish soprano. We started talking about ideas for concerts and CDs, and the concept we ended up working on actually came to fruition, and we recorded it with Swiss Radio in April. and the CD will be coming out in autumn.
Oh,
So,
that's wonderful.
so there were lots of things that even for me personally, that during this time also had time, which I hadn't had
Yeah.
before. I had time to practice more than I'd ever had before. I had time to just think. I won't say that it always was fun,
Yeah,
but
no, of course. Yeah.
um, I do feel that there are coming out of this last year, there will be some certainly, and also in my teaching, some things that I learned, because I did a lot of teaching online and had to be creative. Working with singers online, it's just a different, especially if you're a coach, you can't play and sing at the same time. You have to find new ways of working on repertoire and talking about repertoire and talking about phrasing, talking about interpretation and text. But I found that with most of them, all these conversations we had and all this working online that we did, when we actually got together live, there was a result, and that was
Wonderful.
really
Yeah.
great. That we could still see that it wasn't that working regularly was important, and also it was important psychologically too. I think that especially in the hard lockdowns, that people still kept in touch with each other. You know.
And I think, you know, for, this time was very real for everybody. You know, there was nothing sugar coated about it. It was what it was. And actually, I spoke to a few young singers who talked about this fact that and even some of the artists, the singers I visited and photographed, they were always looking forward to the lesson, the Zoom lesson, the online lesson, you know, and always saying, I've heard from many this phrase of, oh, my teacher means so much to me, or encourages me, or motivates me, and or they're just looking forward to that. And I think the teachers, you know, played such an important role in this time for these young students, you know, to encourage them and motivate them.
Absolutely. I mean, I had one student who couldn't practice at home because of the neighbors, which was, you know, difficult for her. So we still had to find you know, something to do. And so what we would do is she would choose a song or an aria every week, and she would choose 4 or 5 recordings from very early to late. So from the first recordings, and then we'd spend the Zoom session listening to recordings, listening to how the style has changed, how interpretation has changed, but the way people sing has changed. And when we talked about it, the most important part of that was then, well, what does that mean for your interpretation now? So what can you take from all of this that we've listened to, all we've discussed about? What can you take with you? What do you don't want to take with you? What can help you? So it was always for me, all those exercises, and we did that quite a lot, but that really did help. And it was just about, but it always had to, in the end, as long as it came back to them and to what they were trying to do as artists, that was the important thing. We weren't just sitting there saying, "Oh my God, what a fantastic
Yeah,
performer." We
no,
were
no, no,
actually
I understand. Yeah.
we were also being quite critical too, you know, and that was really, and it was fun too. We laughed a lot, talking about things, and and I think all those things challenged all of us, all teachers, you know, to try and find new ways to be creative. And I feel like I think that's enriched us in a way too. I don't think it's a completely lost time at all.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a lost time in terms of theater and opera. I think it's going to take a long time before audiences start coming back. I don't think it's just going to be like that. I think there's going to be a struggle now for getting the houses full again and getting people to feel safe in theaters, and that's going to be a hard time now. But I think in terms of from the educational point of view, I think it's been also an enriching time for a lot of us. too.
I've spoken to a ballet teacher, and she actually said the same thing, that this, you know, she really tried to make and for ballet also it was, and young, it was the Royal Ballet School, and make it interesting, and she actually enjoyed the challenge of making it interesting. But she also said something that I thought about a lot, and that is that you suddenly had a different connection with the students, because they were at home now, you know, and it was a different atmosphere. And did you find that as well, that you almost saw a different side of them, or a personal side of them?
I think in a way, yes. I think it just starts with the fact that look how close we are. You know, I see your face, so I see my student's face very closely. So I see their expression a little bit different, as if they're standing at the end of the piano.
Yeah.
So that was a difference. Yeah, I maybe I'm not sure if I would say that I got to know them on a different level. I think I just got to. I think what we did discover is maybe a real sense of solidarity during this time together, and a sense of solidarity in supporting each other, and also being able to say, well, how's your week going? And you'd get a different response being in lockdown than if they're, oh, I'm really busy running around, or oh, it's been a difficult week. You would probably get more personal personal feedback about how they were feeling emotionally through this. I had a lot of Austrian students and at the MDV, and so they were a bit more lucky that they had family and networks.
Yeah.
I think it was probably a lot harder for the foreign students being here that didn't have that sort of network. And probably maybe, because when I was in Basel, I was also teaching at the Hochschule there, and I had a few students. And I felt that the students there who were from elsewhere, it was harder for them sometimes, this isolation. But I felt that here in Vienna, there seemed to be also, maybe between the students, there was a little bit more, there was a lot of communication going on. And I think that they were trying to support each other. Because I know the isolation, especially if you're living in a small apartment, student apartment, would have been very difficult at times.
Yeah. No, true. So how do you see the change now? Can you see a change and something positive coming out of this, especially for the students?
I think the students, well, I think that one of the it sounds probably strange, but I think one of the big changes will be that I think we won't take anything so for granted anymore.
Yeah.
And how important music making is when it's live, and how and I think the students, I think at the MDV we did these things called Saal training, that we did this, that the students always got the chance to use the halls to perform, even if it was just at the beginning it was just for the teacher, and now we're allowed to have 12 people. I think and I think it would also probably for a lot of students really, and it will be a defining moment for them in the decision that they've made to become professional musicians. That they really will say, I want this, despite what this year's been like for me, I want to keep going. And maybe there will be some who say, this year also taught me that it's not the path I want to go down. Maybe that will happen with some students too. But I think it's certainly been a defining time for the decisions everybody's made, will make for the future as professionals.
And the ones that say graduated and that had to do auditions and move on into careers, was that for them possible? Or do you think it would be a time now, a period where they have to sit it out a little bit or do something else before they could enter their careers?
Well, I can only speak from my field of singing and opera.
Yeah.
I think auditions are happening again, starting to happen. I think there will be opportunities. I just don't think there'll be as many. And part of that is a little bit to do with the fact that all these opera houses have this backlog of productions that they couldn't produce this last year. That means everything's been moved forward to the next season or the season after, and all these productions have been cast. So that means that a lot of positions are already taken. So that means that some singers might very well have to wait a little bit before the next turnover comes. But I hope it'll go quicker. I mean, I know that the young singers that I've worked with in Basel and the singers graduating from the university, some of them have got their books full next year, and some of them it's mixed. Some of them are still looking and still looking. I think things might come more spontaneously too. I think the more if we touch wood that things keep going the way they're going, then maybe more opportunities will arise. And also they say that that economically that Austria and Germany will start having a new Aufschwung, and that's very important for the arts too, because we're the first group of people that suffer from cuts, and so let's just hope that the locomotive starts to run and that people get benefits of that. I think the hardest thing with auditioning for singers was just because of all the restrictions of crossing borders and going to different countries to audition. That was what was so difficult. Some theaters managed it, some didn't. But then again, the singers had to learn to be a little bit more creative about how they presented themselves, and we tried to create opportunities at the universities for them to make to record themselves and to make good high quality recordings that they could at least send things off that way. That there were just to create as many opportunities. That was for me important, to create as many opportunities at Basel and at the MDV for the young singers that were in the lockdown, to see what I could do to help them as much as possible through the connections I have. And that has worked for some of them, thank God, and some of them will probably still struggle a little bit until things hopefully get back to some sort of normalness.
So what is your opinion about these young artists going and performing in the street, or in the parks? Do you think it's good for to just get out there and do it, or is it a bit I don't know, taking away the grandeur of the art?
No, I don't want. I mean, I don't want to be the person to make any sort of judgment on that. I think that's a really personal decision, how you feel about doing something like that. I mean, I think that there's two sides to that story. One side of it is, of course, we want to be present. We want people to know there's music happening. There's music, and so going out on the streets and doing something like that shows people, that
you're
we're
there.
here.
Yeah.
And also, if we're, just generally philosophically speaking, of course, there's all this talk of, the Entthronung der Bühne anyway, that the people are looking for different forms of expression and other bases to create music that are outside the traditional concert hall setting. So maybe all of that's sort of part of this change in how we present music and where we present music. I don't think it's, I mean, my only problem is really making music outside, is that for our music to sound beautiful, we need an acoustic, we need a space where it sounds good. So standing in a forest is not always going to be the right place for the music to sound great, you know, no matter how good the musicians are. So I mean, there's a lot of factors that play in that. I mean, per se, I don't think I don't have a problem with people performing anywhere.
Yeah.
It's really more about quality than anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's interesting that I recognized over the summer some music students that I photographed, and I recognized them in Maria Hilferstrasse playing, and it was actually I liked it because I think it's also connecting on a different level, you know, because they dress down and they you know, trainers and jeans, and just it looks as if they're having such great fun. But yeah, I've heard many different opinions about that as well.
Yeah, I think there will be different opinions about it. There'll be traditionalists who say, no, that's cheapening our art or whatever. But even things are changing, you know, in the world, and in the music world, things are changing too. And the way we like what I said before, the way we perceive what a performance is and where a performance can be. You know, these temples of music, like the Musikverein, or, you know, all these big, you know, the Philharmonie in Hamburg, all these temples of music are very much sort of a European tradition that's come out of the 19th century. But if you go back further, where you know, music was also made in you know, in churches or in palaces or in people's homes, in people's living rooms, you know, I mean, and I think I think we should try and see that as something really positive, that we're searching for new ways of expressing music in different ways, programming, sort of breaking boundaries. And I think the young generation will do that because, and they've had this year where they've been also had a chance to think about things like that too.
Yeah. So what would your advice be for a young artist in this time now? What do you say to your students, or how do you, what could you say to motivate somebody?
Well, when I talk to, you know, a lot of my young singers, you know, will write to me and ask for advice. And I think one thing I do tell them is that they have to swallow their pride sometimes, and they have to be very active. And even if it means writing an email to the same person twice or 3 times, they shouldn't feel humiliated by doing that. Because I said, people are busy, people forget, emails land in people's spams. I tell them that, you know, and that if they're planning a career, you really have to just, you know, we meet so many people, you know, in the profession, and they really need just to sit down sometimes and just write all the names of every person they've had contact with and how the experience has been, and try and contact these people, because people, you know, there's this saying in English, out of sight, out of mind. So, I mean, if people don't know you around, they don't think about you. You have to remind people about you. You have to, you know, I have one singer, for example, she's you know, very close to one of the up and coming most famous conductors for opera. And I say, yes, speak to him. Yes, but if I audition badly, it's embarrassing for him. I said, no, it's not embarrassing for him. It's not going to affect his career. It's your audition. But, you know, sometimes they get, there is a little bit of I think somehow in this younger generation, sometimes they're they're too afraid of embarrassing themselves, and I think they've just got to just go ahead and just be a little bit cheeky and contact people. And it's just because it's all about networking these days, and it's always, you know, I helped a young singer the other day who was having problems about fees, and I called a friend who's a casting director to get his advice. And all of a sudden, because he'd forgotten about her, but because I called him and spoke to him about her, he contacted her about something else. So it just sort of it's always about communication and people. And always, I mean, I can say that because I have to do that too. You know, I'm older, but I still have, you know, for if I want to get on further, you have to always be, you know, and reconnecting to people, especially after the year. Like, you know, people forget who you know, unless you're really famous, people can forget that you're around. You have to remind them.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, yes. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, that's, oh. And so also another singer of mine, the same situation was for a job in an opera house. And I knew that things were difficult in the opera house because I had insider information. And I kept sort of pushing him, saying, just reconnect. And now he's got offers there. But if he hadn't,
Okay. Yeah.
a lot, I think it's, yeah, you just can't give up. And you can't stop believing in yourself, and you and don't let and don't be upset by knockbacks, because that happens all the time. Rejection all happens all through the profession, and you've just got to get up and go on, go to the next door, knock on the next door. One door will open. If you're good, a door will open. You know,
well, this is wonderful advice, but it's wonderful advice for everybody, not just for musicians.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, and I think sometimes they're so focused in what they do in the art form that they, you know, that they forget to communicate or to you know, to do the other part of it. And this is also what a few professional musicians have told me, that they've now realized also that they have to start thinking about the business side of things and about, you know, other things as well, that it's not just being the artist. You have to do all the try and put your finger on all these other things as well. Yeah.
I mean, if you're one of the, you know, top artists, you don't have to do that because you've got people doing it for you. But I'm not in that group, and I think most I say 95% of musicians aren't in that group. So we've got to do it ourselves, you know. And I mean, it is hard. It's hard work, and it takes time, and it takes up time that I'd rather be practicing than sitting at the computer writing emails. But I mean, there's no point spending the whole time at the piano if I don't have anywhere to go to take, you know, my playing.
Yeah.
I think,
But Stephen, this was so wonderful to talk to you now. Okay, good. Okay, Stephen. Have a lovely weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.